Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening. Good evening. How are you? This is Garfield Waller welcoming you to another episode of Rock the Mic. I hope everybody's feeling fine and I hope you're all safe. This evening is going to be a very interesting evening. I have a wonderful guest on for you guys. Very wonderful guest. This should be very interesting. And like as always, so far, we have been showcasing St. Mary High students. So the person we have for you today is another St. Mary High student. But before we get into that, guys, I want to say that we're going to make a little change in the future in that most of our interviews are going to be much shorter. And not only that, I'm going to be going back to recording most of the interviews. Why? Well, Facebook and YouTube has come out with a new algorithm that pushes back live recordings. The live recordings won't be featured that much as the recorded ones. What they want to do with their recorded interviews is be able to splice them up and put in their ads. So that being said, I'm going to be recording some during the middle of the week and I'll put them on at odd times, but I'm still going to be putting on some live interviews. So I hope everybody will be satisfied and will still watch and enjoy. But guys, this week has been a very eventful one. Here in the States, we have all these mass shootings. And I hear back in Jamaica, we're having a lot of car accidents. I'd love to know how the vaccine program is going on in Jamaica. So if you don't mind, drop your comments and let us hear about them. Okay, I'll try and answer some of them. But for this evening, guys, it's all about our guest. It's all about our guest. And ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce you to Dr. Kem-Maria McCook. Dr. McCook, how are you? How are you?
I am well, thanks, Mr. Waller. How are you doing?
I am fine. I am fine, Doc. I am fine. How are you liking the States? You're liking where you are?
I'm sorry?
How are you liking where you're living now?
I love it, except it's very cold. I prefer Jamaica's weather, you know.
Yeah, I know you'd miss that weather. I know you'd miss the weather. But
oh, yes.
Kem-Maria, or can I call you Kem?
Kem is perfectly
fine.
fine.
And you call me Gary, okay? Good. No, Mr. Waller.
Okay, Mr. Waller.
So, Kem, we want to know about your upbringing, everything. We are curious because we heard so much about Kem and where you have come from. We heard about that long journey all the way up. By the way, before we get started, do you recognize that scene behind me?
Yes.
You know where it is. Okay, good. The footwear girl. Okay. Yes, Kem. We want to know who Kem is, where is Kem coming from, the struggles, the hardships that Kem had. So let's get started. So Kem, where are you from? Where were you born? Give us a little background.
Okay, background. So I was born in St. Anne's Bay. I grew up in St. Mary. Did a lot of moving around, you know, not very stable. Mm-hmm. So I was in Huddersfield for a little while. I was in Albion Mountain, was in Banana Street, and then Padgy. I settled down in Padgy for a number of years, which is when I started to go to St. Mary High School.
All right, Padgy. Okay. Your primary school education, let's hear some about that. Which school did you go to? Or which schools?
I went to Albion Mountain Primary School. That was the only primary school.
That's the only primary school you knew. Okay. And who did you grow up with? Fill us in on that.
I grew up with my grandmother and my sister, well, one of my sisters. And then after my grandmother died, it was just me and my sister for a little while.
Wait, hold on. At what age was that? What age were you at that time?
I was in grade 10, I believe, when she died. I'm not sure how old that would make me. I can't do the math right now.
Wait, so you were at St. Mary High at that time?
Yes, I was at St. Mary High when she died.
So grandma passed, and for a while it was just you and your sister. How old was your sister?
My sister, she's 7 years older than myself, so she was a young adult herself too.
Okay. And what was life like at that time? What was life like for you?
Well, growing up from younger days, life was challenging. So it was my grandmother, my sister, as I said before, but what I forgot to mention was that my grandmother, she was visually impaired for a long time.
Okay.
So she was a dressmaker before she got blind, and she would, make ends meet. I never grew up with my parents. My parents, they were overseas in search of a better life, but things don't always work out the way you can. And unfortunately, that's what happened to my parents. So it was grandma, and she did a little thing, tried to make us as comfortable as possible, but then most times she just couldn't. And then when she got blind, things got even harder, finding like just the basic needs of life, that was very challenging. And mom overseas, she would try to chip in here and there, but things weren't great for her either. So that made it even more so challenging. And then at some point she got married. She found a husband overseas who started to help a little bit. But then before long, we realized that this guy had, other motives. Apparently, he was attracted to me in a wrong way as a child. So that never turned out too well. And after I refused to have anything to do with that, then that's where all hell broke loose. So it was just my sister trying to fend for me and, trying to help to find lunch money to send me to school and the whole work. So it was quite challenging. And to be honest, a lot of these memories I repressed so much that I'm having difficulty trying to even remember.
Remember them. Okay. So I guess high school then was, how would you say, darn tough, right?
Agreed. That's a pretty good assessment.
So, Kem, with all these hardships, how did you find the wherewithal to succeed? Tell us some of the things you did to really come out on top.
But I think it's just finding meaningful distractions. So I kept myself very occupied doing a lot of community activities, a lot of church activities, and then at school trying to excel academically and with extracurricular activities. So having all these things to do, I really couldn't help myself but to just excel and not to think about the problems at home. So from at school, it was netball, school challenge quiz, try to do a little music, a little dancing, every little thing. And then at church, I taught Sunday school. I was doing Bible quiz at school. At St. Mary High School, I did school challenge quiz as well. And then in the community, we had this youth club, which was very influential in my life. We would have different activities for the elderly people. We had beautification projects. There were opportunities to go to youth parliament to represent the parish. There's a lot of activities to pretty much keep me occupied and just to forget about the struggles really, or try as best as possible to.
Oh my gosh, that must have been hard. But when it came to things like your equipment, books, geometry sets, and such forth, how was that? To
be honest, I never had a lot of books. I can't recall having textbooks. The only good thing was that after you get to a certain stage, you'd have the rentals. But the books that I was supposed to buy, I just never had them. And you go to the library, you get the material, you try to share with your friends when you can. But otherwise, you just do it out.
Oh my gosh. But you still managed to be basically a complete student. Now, what about lunch money? How did you make it with lunch? Because, hey, you're coming from a home where you have little or nothing. What was lunch like? And how did you feel having to go back home to, a difficult situation like that?
Well, lunch at St. Mary High School, sometimes you would get lunch. You have quote unquote free lunch, or your friends will help you out, or the neighbors, your church sister will give you money here and there. The days when you don't have any, you just go run up and down, find something to do during your lunchtime, do some assignment, something.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
You really found a way to, to push that in the back of your mind. But all along with that, you found time to still enjoy yourself and play sports, right?
Definitely. Netball was my thing.
Netball was your thing. Did any of the other students know what was going on? Did any of your classmates, your colleagues know what was going on?
No.
Nobody knew.
No,
Wow.
I mean, you're in that situation where, you look around you and you think everybody's doing great, everybody's fine, everybody have mommy and daddy, and I don't have anybody. I mean, I don't want anybody to know what's going on with me. So I really never spoke of it. So a lot of people didn't know what was going on around me. I mean, maybe one or two of my teachers, like Mrs. Sadar, knew what was going on.
Yeah,
That's a lot of people.
yeah, we're coming on to Miss Sadar. Ladies and gentlemen, right now I'm speaking with Dr. Kem-Maria McCook, past student of St. Mary High, talking about the struggles she had to go through in school. Guys, if you have comments, just post them. We'll try and answer them. Yes, Kim. So name me some of the other teachers who were influential in helping you, pushing you along.
Oh, Mr. Wally, you're trying to get me in trouble. Oh my gosh, there were so many teachers.
If you call some names and not the others, you're gonna be in trouble. But we want to try and see if we can, pick out a few.
Sure, but I must say up front though, like all the teachers that taught me or have interacted with at St. Mary High School, they have impacted me in some way or another. I mean, some more than others, but I can truly say every single teacher that I've been with, that I've passed through, they have influenced me in some way or another. So if I could start out from grade 7, there are 2 teachers that readily come to mind. I mean, there's, I'm laughing because we as students, we had a different name for her, but it was Miss Williams. She taught physical education. And then my other physical education teacher, and she taught me integrated science as well, Miss Watson. Those 2 teachers from grade 7, they took an interest in me, and they would always be looking out for me, especially because I did netball, and they were always making sure I'm okay. And then as I moved up, you had my chemistry teachers, the 2 Miss Smiths that taught chemistry. Okay. There was Orion Brown, who was the former ed boy, and then he came back and he taught chemistry. There was Miss Bridges. There was Miss Phillips, who taught me biology. She amazing. She's the sweetest soul ever. It was always so calm and, trying to get you to do your assignments. And when you don't understand, she would say, come, Kem, and she was amazing. And then there was Mrs. Sadar, who taught me literature. I absolutely hated anything that had to do with English or literature. And Mrs. Sadar was like, Kem-Maria, you have to do well. What's a doctor without literature? You have to be able to reason. And, so there are a lot of teachers who really, influenced me. They encouraged me to do well, to excel, just to try to do my best. That's everything.
Okay, so at what stage in high school did you realize or did you decide that medicine was what you wanted to do?
I knew I wanted to do the sciences because I excelled. I mean, I did well at everything really, but then there was just a special love for the sciences, and I think that was my strongest area. Okay. And I just wanted to be a professional, and being a doctor seemed very attractive at that time. And I just had this natural love for helping people when people were sick, trying to figure out why or what can I help? What can I do to help? I mean, at that point, clearly not much maybe than to give them a little water or something. But I think that's where the idea of doing medicine came from, being good at the sciences and just that curiosity about why humans get ill and how to help them.
So had it not been for medicine, what other area do you think you would have gone into?
Definitely chemistry. Chemistry was my first love.
Okay.
I could see myself doing chemistry. And then when I went to the University of the West Indies, that's another story. I actually never got into medical school the first year that I applied.
Hold on. You that for no, at fifth form in the exams. I don't remember the name of the exams you guys take in fifth form. What were your results like?
For fifth form, I got all ones.
All
so I did well for 6 exam.
Did you go in there with a chip on your shoulder determined to show that you were just as good as all the other students who had basically everything?
Not at all.
Not at all?
I mean, I know I'm a little country girl and very scared, very, timid, like just trying to survive kind of what I went in with, to be honest.
So you did sixth form also at St. Mary High?
I did, yes.
First, before we go any further, what house were you in?
Cargill.
Oh my God. I can never get a Henry House person on this thing.
Yeah. What house is that? Which house was that? That doesn't even ring a bell.
Oh, come on.
That's good.
All right. So On your journey to and from school, just to remind some people, what bus did you take to St. Mary High? To and from?
What bus did I take? I never had like a favorite or a special bus, like, people that would go to school unless it's their bus. But there was this one bus that Greg was on, I forget the name, but I'll take sometime. Yeah, I never had a special bus to say that's my bus.
All right. So
you need to go to school, you go on a bus.
You go on a bus.
Yeah.
All right. So after sixth form, tell me the path you embarked on after sixth form.
Okay, so after sixth form, so I applied to medical school, and unfortunately, I didn't get accepted the first year. So I went to what we call, then it was pure and applied sciences. Now it's called science and technology. So I went there for a year with the intention to transfer at the year to just do well, get all A's, get good grades, and go to medical school. That was the plan. I mean, well, firstly, I didn't even know how I was going to pick medical school had I gotten in that year anyways. And I didn't know how I was going to pick for the pure and applied sciences either. But as life would have it, and thankfully St. Mary High School, they were so supportive. That's how I ended up going to UA for the first year, and they paid for the first year of university.
St. Mary High did that?
Yes.
Wow, you're lucky. Great school. All right.
I mean, so after the first year I did like biology, biochemistry, physics, math. So I did that for the first year and then applied to medical school the following year. And thankfully I got in again with no idea how I'm going to find how much $1 million to pay for tuition. So I started applying for scholarships. And there's this scholarship at St. Mary, in St. Mary, it's called the Sidney Phillips Scholarship. I applied to that scholarship and it was like $200,000 or $250,000 at a time, but I needed like $600,000 for the subsidized tuition.
And
didn't get scholarship because I never had my acceptance up front. So when I finally got my acceptance, it was too late, and the scholarship they already issued
okay.
the scholarship to the different awardees. But
so that how did you withstand that blow? Because for most people that would have been a dagger through the heart. How did you look at it?
I mean, I was disappointed. I really, really wanted that scholarship, but then guess what? It worked out even better. So I met a lady called Elizabeth Phillips. She was one of the persons who interviewed me for that scholarship. And I mean, the rules are the rules. I just never had my acceptance to medical school at the time. And for that reason, they couldn't give me the scholarship. But otherwise, I think she was impressed with my academic performance and my overall application. So she was like, Kem-Maria, I'm going to do whatever it takes for me to help you. And she got her friends together. She knew a few people in high places. And by the time I got my acceptance and was ready to go to medical school, she and her colleagues, they were able to come up with my entire tuition for medical school for the first semester. So that's how that year happened. And then same thing again. I'm like, okay, it's the first year of medical school. You have to do well. You need to get a scholarship because you can't be stressing out Miss Phillips to find over $500,000 per year, and the tuition keep going up every year. So worked again very hard and tried to get good grades. And Miss Phillips, you know, she encouraged me, Kem, you need to apply for scholarship, find scholarship, this and that. And you go through the process, you did the applications, and lo and behold, I was successful in getting a scholarship to complete my medical education at UA. So that's that.
So graduating from UA, how were you? And knowing Kem-Maria, you were up near the top, right?
Yes.
Don't be too bad. Come on.
I did okay. I did. I graduated UA with the highest honor that they offer. It's a distinction. So MBBS stands for Bachelor in Medicine and Bachelor in Surgery with distinction. And I was the valedictorian for my class.
Oh, come on. Why you being natural? You should be shouting that from the rooftops. You should be shouting that from the rooftops,
right.
Kim.
And then after medical school, I did 1 year internship So that was at Kingston Public Hospital and Bustamante Hospital. And that was for a year, rotating, doing, I think it was 3 months or 4 months rotations. And after that, I'm like, okay, what next? You know, it's very competitive to specialize, you know. I mean, am I going to work as a general practitioner? It's like, where am I going to go with my life? But then I remember that, okay, I never grew up with my parents. They're getting old, you know, you have to make an effort to get to know them. And that's where my journey to the US started.
All right.
I mean, I used to travel back and forth.
Hold on a bit. We're coming back to that. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're just joining us, we're talking with Dr. Kem-Maria McCook. You are on Rock the Mic. Dr. Kem-Maria McCook is one of the distinguished students from St. Mary High who went through, basically, academically, she breezed through, but life was very tough for her. And she has been explaining to us some of the problems she had, some of the problems she faced and surmounted. Now we're going to pick it up again where she's going to talk about her parents who were estranged. Go ahead, Kem-Maria.
Right. So after medical school and internship, I decided to come to the US so that I could, you know, get to know my parents, since I didn't grow up with them really. I didn't know much about them. I wanted to get to know them before, you know, they're no longer around. So hence my journey to Florida after I was done with internship. Came over, I spent a year and a half there. I mean, I learned a lot. And I was very happy for the opportunity to get to know them and to understand their struggles and where they're coming from. Okay. I mean, to be honest, I was very bitter because, you know, I was wondering why, and probably still a little bitter, but, you know, forgiveness, and thank God for Jesus. You know, you learn to forgive and, you know, spend some time with them and, I mean, get to know them. And quite frankly, I have no regrets whatsoever about how I was brought up, because I think that's part of why I'm so resilient, and it's just what makes me who I am. So I have.
Are you saying that maybe if you had an easier life, you wouldn't have gone to where you are, right?
Right. And I'm also thinking that maybe if I grew up with my parents, I mean, I wouldn't be where I am today. They'd probably tell me, oh, I can't afford medical school or whatever, take your mind off it. Or, you know, I probably would have taken a different path. Who knows? So I'm like, I think everything happens for a reason, and God doesn't make any mistake.
Right. So how did you, on getting back with their parents, I can imagine the immense pride they must have felt, right?
Definitely.
And any guilt on their part?
Yes, I think there is some guilt on their part, but I mean, there's nothing that they can do about it at this point. They try their best. For example, when I just came here, and you know, little things like how to fold clothes or so. When mommy was trying to teach me all that, you know, because she does that. She was doing that at some point for a living. She was like a domestic helper, so, and she took pride in how she fold clothes, and she's trying to teach me these things or teach me how to cook. I was so resentful. I was like, when you were supposed to be teaching this, you were not around. I don't want to learn this from you, know. Okay. You know, but with time, you kind of slowly learn to forgive and, you know, accept little things and just try not to make them feel even worse for not being a part of my life earlier.
Okay, but the relationship has been mended now, right?
To some extent. The unfortunate thing, though, is that shortly after I migrated to the US, my mom, she had a terrible accident. She went to the doctor, she fell, ended up being disabled. So right now, she's not able to do much for herself. But that's the only unfortunate thing. But we're still a work in progress.
Still a work in progress. And I guess you must feel bad that grandma isn't around to see, you know, where you are today.
Definitely. That's like one of my greatest regrets. Like, I always said that everything I do for her, because I mean, even when she wasn't able to see, she was just always there trying to encourage, trying to, you know, push you forward. And I was like, her only hope was for her to be able to see me graduate St. Mary High School. And that never happened. So that was very sad for me.
Oh my gosh. Anyway, you seem to be one of our best top graduates, because Mrs. Sadara speaks so highly of you. She speaks so very highly of you. You really impressed her. and you seem to have impressed everybody who you come across.
I'm actually happy to hear that because my sister there, she's not somebody that is easily impressed. So that's actually good to hear.
Yes, you impressed her. I spoke to her, and you are one of those who you stick out in her mind. But apart from the academic scheme, when you're not studying, because every time I've gotten in touch with you, you are hitting the books. When you're not studying, what do you do in your spare time?
Oh, well, a lot of my spare time is spent talking on the phone, talking to my special person. If it's not that, it's reading webtoons or watching show. I like crashing on the couch just to watch a show or some series.
Okay. Miss home?
I mean,
do you miss home?
I'm sorry?
Do you miss home?
Definitely. I mean, if I was in Jamaica, then I could talk about going to the beach or, find something to do with my friends. Right now, it's not ideal because the whole corona situation and, work is very hectic. But yes, definitely at home in Jamaica, then beach, hanging out with friends, going to the movies, the whole works.
Wait, let me ask you something. As a doctor and you being up here in the States with the coronavirus raging in Jamaica, do you ever wish that you were back there to help?
I mean, where I am now, I am helping, and Jamaica is home for me. The important thing is that wherever I am, I'm impacting lives. I love taking care of my own people, but I still feel that what I'm doing here is appreciated. So it's not like I regret not being there. I would be happy to be home to help. And in fact, I do intend to go back to Jamaica eventually to practice. So not a matter of, or regret not being in Jamaica to help, because I'm sure the work is being done, the work is being carried on, but it's just wherever you are, just helping. That's all that matters for me.
And okay, I don't know if you can see it on the screen, but Jacqueline Wilson is saying hello to you. She's telling you the content.
Hi, Miss Wilson. You see, Miss Wilson was one of them too who influenced me very much. She was the one who made me do literature. I wanted to do accounts, and she was like, "No, what's a doctor without literature?" Hi, Miss Wilson. Thank you.
Do you know that Miss Wilson was my senior? Do you know that she was a deadly shooter in netball?
She what?
She was a shooter, goal attack.
Oh, really?
In fact, her nickname in high school was Django. She never missed.
Yep. Well, I learned something tonight. I did not know that.
Yes, she was called Django. Miss Wilson never missed at all, man. Yeah, but you say you plan on going back home one day. I do it in the future. Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's a dream. It depends on where my career path.
It depends on where career. So right now you are leaning towards being a surgeon, right?
Right. I'm in training for that.
Yes. I always thought that somebody with your kind nature and stuff like that, you'd go into the pediatrics.
You want to know a funny story about that? That's the only thing throughout my entire med school years, as I said, I'd never do. Nothing to do with pediatrics. I don't know. I love kids, but I don't like sick kids. I mean, it's too much for my heart.
You don't like sick kids. What? Yeah. Let me ask you something. As a doctor, can you remember the first time you stuck somebody?
Yes.
How was it?
No, I was very nervous.
You were nervous. Because I wonder how.
If one of the first person I knew it was my first time sticking them, they probably would be as nervous as I was.
Oh my gosh! But how do you guys get over the sight of blood and somebody who is in pain? How do you get to the point where it doesn't affect you, or does it ever reach that point?
Quite frankly, I was never at that point. I mean, the scent of blood never bothered me. From medical school, you're going to the anatomy lab with cadavers, dead bodies there, and you get used to all the formalin smell and all that. Then, the scent of a little blood, it's just like nothing.
I can stand the sight of blood as long as it's not my own. I'm okay. But
nothing about it bothers me really.
But can you remember the first time you dealt with a cadaver?
Yes.
How was it? Yes, tell us that
I mean,
experience.
to be honest, in Jamaica, you hear about duppy and then
Yes.
people and whatever. So when you come and you look around and you just see the body's just lying there, I'm like, okay, this is different. But before you know it, you jump in, you're there to learn, you start working, and I mean,
So there
before
was
you know
no
it, you're not
fear,
even
no
supposed to be eating in the
trepidation, no.
anatomy lab, but you might take a sip here and there. It just became a part of you naturally.
Wait, hold on. So you could be working on a cadaver and then take a sip of drink or something like that?
No. Like sometimes, like your teacher or your professor is there and they're teaching, and you're not supposed to be eating in there. It's illegal. So I hope nobody from there sees this. But you might, pop a little and eat or drink not while you're actively touching. No, that's gross.
But no, if you were to put me in a room with a dead body like that, I don't think I could sleep for a week or something like that. I've always wondered how you doctors do it. But
you get used to it.
You get used to it. To see somebody suffer, to see somebody in pain, does it affect you later on?
It does. I mean, the sad reality is that this is your everyday life. You're going to see every day you're seeing people who are in pain or people dying, and it takes a toll on you, but you know that, you have to pull yourself together because you have other people who need you. I mean, sometimes you just have to take 2 minutes to cry and then get yourself together and go again, because at the end of the day, you can do so much and no more. If this is God's will, it's God's will. And there's nothing that you can do to change it, really. You do your best and God does the rest. And if this is the outcome, this is the outcome. You put yourself together and you move on.
When doctors get together, like on a break or something, when doctors get together, what do you talk about?
You want to know the truth? Work. Work.
You just talk about
really work. You start talking about all the patients or whatever the cases that you've had. Of course, I mean, because of people and, you can't disclose like personal information and stuff, but you talk about interesting cases, you talk about relatives that you have running with, you talk about your colleagues that you're not getting along too well with, or things that somebody said. I mean, it's just work related. It's just like, it's a part of you just cannot. So like when we have our non-medical friends around us, I mean, sometimes we do it and not even realize we're just talking about work and you're just there.
Do you take it home with you?
I mean, it's hard to leave.
It's hard to leave. Okay.
It's hard to leave.
Yeah, but I've often wondered about medical people, how, at what time do they drop their stethoscope and, become normal people, if they ever do.
It's hard. It's hard.
But I'm going to interfere in your private business now. Something happened in February, I think. Would you mind telling us about that?
So in February of this year, February 18th, to be exact, I got married. I married my best friend. So we've been dating for 11 years, somewhere thereabouts. Just at the end of St. Mary High School, went to church camp and met this guy. And 11, 12 years later, here we are. Got married. I came down to Jamaica. It was a beautiful day.
And okay, congrats, ma'am, congrats. And there's only one thing about that, bad thing about that union. What is it?
He didn't attend St. Mary High School.
Which school did the young man go to?
He went to Knox Community College and then Manchester High School. But I mean, don't even know what schools those are. Never went to St. Mary High School. That was Oakley fault,
Congratulations.
But
Congratulations.
I've learned to live with it.
You learned to live with it. I guess you may have to bring him around to one of the reunions one year.
Yeah.
Yes, but looking back at your time at St. Mary High, have you thought, I guess this may put you on the spot, but I'm going to put you on the spot. Okay, you put me on the spot earlier. No. Have you ever thought of ways of, say, giving back to St. Mary High?
Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
So my love has always been netball. And that's one of the areas, especially whatever area they need help and I'm able to help, I'm happy to help, but definitely netball would be my focus, because having played netball for all the years that I was at St. Mary High School, I saw where we needed things that we didn't have. For example, I mean, gears we would get, but not as often as we would want. And the facility to say stay over for training and to prepare for the championships, things like that. If I can help, I mean, I know I will be in a position God's willing to help. That is my goal, to help in that area, just to get the netballers, the things they need to. We always end up winning the zone championship, but after we get outside of our zone, that's where the struggle in the championships come in. I want to see high school netball team get past there. So that's where my focus is going to be, God's willing.
All right, good. Now, coming to the States and seeing what everything is like, especially the whole medical scene. What areas do you think we in Jamaica need to improve, medical-wise? What improvements would you like to see? And if you had the power to make things better, what would you do?
There are a lot of areas. I mean, not just in Jamaica, but other developing countries, and even here in the States, there are lots of areas that could always use improvement. But for me, the biggest area that I would focus on in Jamaica is just that continuity of care. So you have a patient who comes to the hospital with a problem. You do your best to take care of that patient. But then when you send that patient back to their safe surroundings, you don't address all the other issues that led them to the hospital in the first place. It just makes for like a vicious cycle, the patient just coming back to you and you patch up again and go. But here, what I appreciate is all the different, the multidisciplinary care that takes place, all the people that are involved, making sure that physiotherapy see all our patients, making sure you have a social worker, making sure you have a care manager who coordinates all the other aspects of the care and not just put a Band-Aid and send the patient on their merry way just for them to come back in another day or two. So I think I would want to put more focus on not just the medical aspect alone or medications and doing procedures, but also the patient on a whole, like, their surroundings and all the other factors that contribute to their health.
Okay. And any other aspect you can think of?
And then in terms of like the medical part of it, my interest right now, which started when I was in medical school, is in transplant surgery. So when I was in medical school, there were a lot of patients who I saw who had especially renal failure, kidney issues. Every other patient had some renal problems. And the truth is, dialysis in Jamaica is, the public system, it's a long list. It's a long way to even get on the dialysis list. And then to get dialysis privately, it's very expensive. And a lot of people really could benefit from a kidney transplant or even other forms of transplants. And that is not something that is readily available in Jamaica. And that's where my interest in transplants surgery started. So my intention is to pursue a career in transplant surgery. And if I do end up going that route, I would love to come back to Jamaica to partner with some of my colleagues there and to get something up and running. I mean, I know it's a big, feat, but dream the impossible dream, as Mrs. Sadar would say. Right. And that is something that's an area that I would definitely like to help to develop in Jamaica.
Okay. So you just mentioned renal diseases, kidney failures. When you look at our population in Jamaica, is there any other aspect of healthcare that you think we suffer from and we don't do enough about as people? What do we neglect as a people?
As a people, I mean, it's hard to speak for everyone, but in terms of the general trends that we see, like just lifestyle issues, like I'm not sure how much focus is placed on preventative medicine. So instead of like focusing so much on treating people when they're already ill, I think a lot more effort should go into preventing people from getting ill in the first place. So, and not just start like, and I think it should start from like a younger age, from, start developing good habits from as early as primary school days. So teaching kids how to eat properly from the get-go and how to be active physically, how to just, be health conscious. I think it should start from a very early age. So I think preventative medicine should be an area that we focus more on.
Okay. There. What are your views on natural medicine?
What do you? What's your definition of natural medicine? Maybe we should start there.
Off turning to the big pharmacies, big pharma, and all these chemicals. What do you feel about using what we grow, what our ancestors use? Busy, fever grass, stuff like that. What do you think about that?
I mean, it all depends. I mean, I drink my fever grass. I mean, I drink my busy too. But as a medical doctor, I cannot look on my patient and know that there is a drug that is proven to be beneficial and agree with them to say, okay, you can go and try this or something that there is no proof or any study have been done to say it work. I really can't do that. So while I have nothing against, no qualms against BC and all those things, I will not tell my patients to go and do this if I have something I know for a fact works based on the evidence out there.
All right. Now, another little question that may put you in a little tricky spot. With COVID raging, what would you say to the ordinary person, whether that person be in Jamaica or the US? What would you tell them about COVID and the vaccine? Well, the question is, should they take it? Should they not take it? What do you think?
Well, let me start by saying I was one of the first people in line to take my vaccine. I got my first dose from last December, and I was fully vaccinated by January. So I am for the vaccine. Yes, there are questions surrounding the effectiveness and the long-term side effects that we don't have enough data to say, okay, what are the long-term side effects of this vaccine? But I say to everyone, it is a calculated risk benefit, and I think the benefits outweigh the risk. I say educate yourself on how the vaccine works. And I mean, vaccination is not anything new. I mean, it might be the type of vaccine that the coronavirus vaccine is. It might be not the most common type that we generally use, but it has been studied, it has been proven to be effective. And when you weigh like the effects of COVID, like having COVID and the potential complications that you can have having, COVID disease itself versus taking the vaccine, and I say take it, go for it. I really think taking the vaccine is worth it.
And if and when this abates, the disease abates, do you think it will pop up again in the future? Do you think it's something that's gonna reoccur?
I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, it's the type of virus that it is, the family of virus that it is. These viruses have been around from time to time, from a long time. But of course, every now and again, you have new strains of viruses and whatever. It's hard to say. I don't think it's going to go anywhere anytime soon. It's going to become like a seasonal thing or whatever. I can't say either. But I think at this point, we just have to work with the data that we have. There is still a lot of research that is ongoing, and we just keep up to date to see where we go from here. But I say get vaccinated if you haven't. And even after you get vaccinated, still, take the necessary precautions, obey the rules that they have in place, the social distancing, wearing your mask, proper hand hygiene, do what you need to do to keep yourself and everyone else around you safe.
All right. Makes sense. Now, at your hospital where you are, what's your daily schedule like? What time do you get up in the mornings? What time do you get home in the evening? Let's hear the schedule of young
So
people.
I wake up 4:00 every morning.
Hold on. You wake up what?
4 a.m.
All right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So try to get ready for work. Usually you should get to work. Work starts officially at 5:30 a.m.
How far away is work?
Well, I go to different campuses.
Okay.
So there's one that's like 5 minutes walk from home.
Mm-hmm.
There's another one that's about 10 minutes walk, and then one that's a 30 minutes drive. So depending on where I'm going, I even have to get up earlier. But right now, I'm just a 5 minutes walk from work.
Okay.
So wake up 4 o'clock, get ready. I usually try to get in at least by 5 o'clock so that I can get myself ready to take over care from whoever worked for the night.
Okay.
And then, I mean, depending on what service you're on, which rotation you're doing, your day is going to vary. But usually you're doing clinical work from that point or operating until 5:30 p.m. That's the time that you should work, 5:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. But sometimes you go over a little bit here and there.
Okay. No, a patient is lying in their bed. They're in pain. They're stressed out.
Mm-hmm.
And you pull that curtain aside and you go up to the bedside.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when I look at you, you look like a little 15-year-old to me. Can you tell me about some of the reactions you have gotten from some of these patients when they see you?
Funny enough, I haven't had anybody tell me that I look young. I don't know.
Nobody?
No.
You look like, honestly, you look like a kid. But I would be surprised.
Well, thank you. I take that as a compliment. Thank you. But no, I haven't really had any issues with that.
Nobody has had any issues. Any issues with gender?
No, I haven't had any issues with that. So the good thing about where I am now, there is this big drive for diversity and inclusion. So that's a big thing here now where, you don't discriminate based on race, class, sexual orientation, or anything of that sort if you have a disability. So the goal is to treat everyone equally. And thankfully, I haven't really had any issues with that since I've been here.
Okay, good. Ladies and gentlemen, we're talking with Dr. Kem-Maria McCook. She's a graduate of St. Mary High and the University of the West Indies. And we're learning a lot about her career. Now, Kem.
Yes.
Being where you are up in the north, patients come into you, patients come and go. Do you notice any difference with how between a patient of color and a white patient? Is there any difference in the way they interact with a doctor?
Why are you trying to put me on the spot, Mr. Waller?
I'm not putting you on the spot. I'm just trying to highlight some things about maybe our people.
There are differences. There are lots of differences. I mean, it just depends on what aspect exactly you're talking about. But yes, from the level of involvement that patients are in their care, I mean, it varies with race. It varies with your level of education. It varies with just your culture. Some culture, the females, they're not allowed to be very involved in their care or, ask a lot of questions.
Okay, right. That's what I was getting at. The questions.
It's different. It varies.
Right. Okay. So, another personal question, Dr. McCook. You just got married in February. What are the plans for starting a family and when? And
that's a very good question.
Like?
Listen, it's very expensive to take care of babies. I don't think I'm able to care for one or provide for one at this moment. So that's one of the inhibitory factors at the moment. But I would love to have kids. That much I can say. And my husband also wants to have kids. So it's definitely in our plans. But as to when, maybe another 2-3 years, who knows?
All right. Now, as somebody who just left high school just the other day, what advice would you give to other kids who say want to pursue a profession in medicine? What advice would you give to them?
Well, I'll tell them, starting from now in high school, just start developing good habits. Try to make like reading like an everyday thing. Try to get at least 1 hour reading in. Try to find a balance from now.
Mm-hmm.
And if it is what you really want to do, I say go for it. Just start looking around from early as to, how you're going to like finance your this path. Try getting the necessary prerequisites, do well in school, because the better you do in school is the higher your chance of actually getting to pursue this career, higher the chance of getting into medical school, getting scholarships and all that. So focus, do your best, and you can do it. I mean,
is there anything you know now that you wish you had known then?
I wish I had known that things would actually work out, so that I would worry less. I'm a little worrier, If I could go back, to that little girl at St. Mary High School, I'd say, stop worrying. Everything is going to work out.
But talking to you sound like a person of great faith.
I am.
Yeah, can you explain how that has helped you?
Oh, yes, definitely. So I became a Christian when I was in high school, early in high school. And that has been like one of my major driving forces in my life. I mean, a lot of times when I, felt like giving up, a lot of times when I felt like, there was just no out, then my faith, my belief in God, Jesus Christ, was what kept me going, to know that, okay, there is somebody that cares. There is somebody who will answer your prayers. That's what really kept me going. And just to know that at the end of it all, what we do here and now in this life, it's necessary to be here, but this is not the end goal. There is something greater than being here. And that's what keeps me going.
Good answer. But I'm going to hit you on a question here now. As a Christian, how do you reconcile Christianity and medicine, the medical field? You have people who say, hey, God will take care of me. God will cure this. How do you reconcile that with medicine, with the medical field?
So God help those who help themselves. Anyways.
I knew you were going to say that.
But I believe in science, and I also believe in God. And I believe that God created science. He created everything. And other people argue otherwise, but I don't think they're mutually exclusive at all. So my belief in God doesn't in any way impact what I believe in science, or vice versa.
But in your short career, have you seen anything that has made you go, wow?
Just
say you have a patient who, listen, is that door?
Like just every day when you stand and like you're looking in a human body, you're like, there has to be a God. There is design in nature there. Who else could create something like this? It's mind blowing. There is nobody that's going to tell me that, oh, there was just a big bang this happened. No, I'm not buying it. Sorry.
So what denomination are you? Baptist, Catholic, Methodist? What are you?
This is another area, but whatever. Church of Christ.
Oh, Church of Christ. Okay. And in your community where you are up there in the north, you still find time to worship, right?
Unfortunately, which is something that I don't really like, I've been worshiping online for the past couple months.
Online.
I prefer to be at church. I love human interaction, but given the climate and all that is going on, you just have to adjust to, the new norm. So I can't wait to get out when things get normal again, to go back to church. That's one of my biggest, challenges right now, having to worship online.
Okay. So tell us about your first encounter with the white stuff, snow, coming from Port Maria. Tell us about that, please.
So my first encounter with that white stuff, as you call it, was this year actually. Was it? Well, since I've been here, was it in December or January, somewhere thereabout? So at first, you see snow on TV, and yes, man, very excited, and I couldn't wait when I heard that we were going to have a blizzard. I'm like, yes. Went to work. I worked 24 a day, and then when I came out the morning, everything was just white. Of course, somebody didn't carry the proper shoe to wear,
Oh,
so
okay.
that was
I
a
wonder who
challenge.
that could
Thankfully,
be.
one of the coworkers said, "Kem, no, you can't go out there, take my shoes." So I
Mm.
got some shoes, and then I walked around, I took it up, I threw it, and it was great for the first time and the first day. But then after that, nope, too cold. And then it start getting dirty. I'm like, nope,
Yep.
no, I'm not about this life. I'm ready to go back to
Ready
Jamaica.
to go. Yeah, it happens that way to all of us. But
Yep.
Kev, it's been great talking to you, ma'am. And listen, St. Mary High is proud of you. You're one of these many doctors that have come out of the school, and you have set an example for a lot of the young ladies, because most of the doctors coming out of St. Mary High are guys. As a young lady, you have raised the bar. And I'm sure, talk to Miss Sadar. She has said that a lot of them realize now what is possible. And you are basically one of the torch bearers. And we're happy to know that you have made it. I mean, you still have some more years to go. You're going to be
Long
still
way to
learning.
go.
Long way. I don't think so. Once your kids come along.
Ah.
Once your kids
Yeah.
But Ken, I want to thank you for sitting down with me this evening. And I want you to know that Rock the Mic appreciates it, man. And any last words before you go, Kem?
Well, first, let me say thanks for having me. I mean, I'm a very shy person, so
No,
it
you
took
don't
a,
seem
a
like
lot
it,
of
no.
courage to come and do this. So thanks for pulling me out.
Mhm.
And my final word is, wherever you are, whoever you are, if you have a dream, let nothing or no one get in your way. Set your mind to it and work for it. It will be worth it in the end.
In the end. But we want you to know that we are behind you, and we look forward to the day when you return to St. Mary High, maybe to address a group of students, to let them know just what is possible with hard work, dedication, and faith in God, to let them know that, hey, all things are possible. And no dream is that hard or unreachable. So, Kim, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Faith and
Thanks
courage.
for having me. Faith and courage.
Oh, okay, you remember. Okay, good.
All right, Mr. Fuller, take care. Bye
All
bye.
right. Thanks a lot, Kev. Take care. Peace out. Okay.
Peace.